Asterisk 80 AD, the Roman Colosseum. Asterisk picture 50,000 spectators, their faces illuminated by the midday sun, the air thick with anticipation and the stench of sweat. In the center of the arena, a woman chained to a wooden structure stands naked and terrified. The sun beats down mercilessly and the roar of the crowd swells. Suddenly, the gates open and a bull is released not to kill her, but for something far worse. Hidden behind the facade of entertainment is a grotesque execution. The guards have crafted a mechanical replica of a cow, pushing the woman inside, forcing her to confront her fate in a twisted reenactment of the myth of Pasiphae, the queen who engaged in a terrible liaison with a bull. The crowd erupts in applause, children watch gleefully, and senators laugh heartily. Welcome to a morbid form of Roman entertainment. The dark reality of Roman spectacles. This isn't mere fiction. The poet Martial was present at the Colosseum's inauguration, documenting this atrocity. "We saw Pasiphae joined to the bull," he wrote, recording a ritual that served to illustrate the depths of depravity hidden beneath the grandeur of Roman Empire, renowned for its laws, aqueducts, and philosophy, yet stooped to public executions framed as entertainment. Today, we peel back the layers of this horrific reality, a reality meticulously chronicled by historians. You'll discover the most brutal, perverse, and inhumane spectacles Rome organized in its arenas. Politics and propaganda, a spectacle of power. These gruesome events were not random acts of madness. They served a sinister purpose. They were about politics, propaganda, and control, all executed within a framework of legality. At Crown and Dagger, we refuse to shy away from the truth that Rome would prefer you ignore. Most discussions around the Colosseum glorify the valiant deeds of gladiators while glossing over the darker aspects of the games. Each week, Crown and Dagger uncover stories that shock the conscience. If you're seeking unfiltered history, hit like and subscribe, because what follows is too horrific to forget. The scale of violence, the infrastructure of death during the 1st to 4th centuries AD. The Roman Empire boasted a population of approximately 60 million people and over 250 amphitheaters, scattered across its territories, all designed for spectacles of death and violence. The Colosseum alone could house 50,000 spectators, packed almost daily with an insatiable audience. The historian Eutropius estimated that over 400,000 individuals lost their lives in Roman arenas throughout 4 centuries. That's a staggering number, an entire city wiped from existence to satisfy the Roman thirst for entertainment. At the Colosseum's inaugural festivities, Emperor Titus celebrated with 100 days of games, leading to the slaughter of 9,000 animals, an average of 90 deaths per day. Following him, Emperor Trajan carried out 123 games across 123 days, executing thousands of gladiators and captured foes. Entertainment or execution. Seneca the philosopher recorded the chilling aftermath of these games, stating, "I come home more greedy, more cruel, more inhuman, because I have been among humans." His observations reflect the moral decay these spectacles nurtured among their spectators. As midday approached, the arena became a stage for public executions, criminals tied to stakes, lions unleashed, with the crowd betting on the duration of each victim's screams. This was Rome's lunch entertainment. But why indulge in such gruesome acts? The arena served a unique function. It taught obedience through pleasure. When you witness someone torn apart, you internalize a lesson. When you cheer for another's death, you become complicit in the larger machinery of control wielded by the empire. The origins of blood sports. The origins of such spectacles trace back to 264 BC, when 3 sons honored their deceased father not with offerings but with blood. They forced pairs of slaves to fight to the death during a funeral ceremony, a practice borrowed from the traditions of Rome's enemies, the Campanians and Samnites, who believed that restless spirits required blood for peace. The Roman elite recognized the power of bloodshed as a display of wealth and dominance. Soon, funeral games morphed into tools of political campaigns, showing the public that mastery over life and death could curry favor and demonstrate strength and leadership. The temporary wooden stands used for spectators transitioned into grand amphitheaters, temples of violence, where the echoes of death whispered the message. Rome commands men, armies, and even death itself. A shift in spectacle. As Roman spectacles evolved, they shifted toward more exotic displays of suffering. The arena showcased exotic animals: lions from North Africa, leopards from the Caucasus, crocodiles from the Nile, subjected to gruesome fates that were far from ordinary slaughter. When Julius Caesar paraded a giraffe in 46 BC, the crowds were spellbound, but the majestic creature met a swift end in the sands. The violent message: Rome could conquer all, even nature. The slaughter escalated significantly over time. At the Colosseum's inauguration, Emperor Titus presided over the brutal deaths of more than 9,000 animals in a single set of celebrations. Archaeologists found bone remnants marked by starvation, indicating that lions and bears had been weakened to ensure swift kills during the spectacles intended to thrill. Animal massacres attracted crowds, and with this success, Rome's hunger for larger, more elaborate carnage grew. Choreographed death. It became imperative for the speculators to create situations of suspense and imbalance, where the outcome of a fight was predetermined but the suffering was real. Gladiators were not always matched evenly. Oftentimes, they faced multiple opponents or were pitted against seasoned fighters armed with the finest weapons, while they themselves held only wooden swords. This was not combat. It was tragic theater designed for maximum cruelty. The depiction of gladiators reveals how power dynamics worked in the arena. The Retiarius fought with a trident and net against the heavily armored Secutor. Here, the combat wasn't about prowess. It was about calculated complicity and the thrill of uncertainty. Would the net ensnare the opponent? Would the weapon break through? The cruelty of damnatio ad bestias. The midday spectacles took a darker turn with the introduction of the damnatio ad bestias, a condemnation to beasts where criminals, deserters, and slaves became unwilling participants in brutal performances disguised as mythological tales. Their punishments were often grotesquely poetic. Thieves were torn apart by wild animals, arsonists burned alive. Each act served as a morality play, conveying lessons through bloodshed and terror. Emperor Trajan's games were among the most notorious. Thousands of captives were slaughtered over a record stretch of days as the crowd witnessed the clashing of bodies and the hysterics accompanying each act of savagery. Victims tied to the stakes were subjected to wild beasts, and the audience eagerly placed bets on how quickly each one would perish. The genesis of sadistic theater, but even this wasn't enough for the crowd. The execution was not solely about death. The condemned had to perform their demise in a manner that echoed Rome's own myths. Prisoners were made to embody heroes, and their struggles became theatrical performances. Consider Orpheus, the musician renowned for his ability to charm beasts. In a horrifying twist, the crowd watched as a bear was released from its cage to tear apart the very performer meant to subdue it. The poet Martial documented this moment, exclaiming in disbelief, "We saw Orpheus." Another prisoner was forced to take to the sky on crude wings, only to fall victim to a waiting beast below. The most grotesque reenactment? Pasiphae and the Bull? This macabre show staged a woman's union with a mechanical beast, morphing execution, humiliation, and pornography into a singular spectacle that froze the crowd in voyeuristic horror. Chronicles of the grotesque asterisk. Tertullian asterisk wrote of horrific scenes where female prisoners were dressed as priestesses, subjected to brutal violations before being cast aside. This was the ultimate degradation, a societal statement that Rome owned its people contemptuously, akin to how it controlled its myths. Engineering destruction. The cruelty did not end on land. Rome's lust for spectacle extended onto the waters. In mock naval battles known as naumachia, they flooded arenas, transforming them into pseudo-oceans where captives battled for their lives aboard ships. Julius Caesar instigated this spectacle in 46 BC, digging a massive basin fed by waterways for such executions disguised as entertainment. Augustus later expanded this scale, creating monumental water-filled arenas where thousands of battle-dead men fought for survival. The horrors of captivity were drowned in a sea of blood, as swords clashed and men perished in the turbulent waters. The sea itself became a weapon to ravage lives. Final acts of barbarism. As time passed, the spectacles grew more extreme. Women were forced to fight naked or battle dwarfs or beasts, the normalization of violence blurring not only gender lines but also humanity itself. Prisoners met their fates merely as fodder for entertainment, burned alive, suspended on timber, while the masses feasted and reveled in the carnage. The legacy of these exhibitions created a deadly culture, one personified by emperors like Commodus, who transformed the arena into his personal theater. Dressed as Hercules, he slaughtered animals and gladiators alike, but with every rigged advantage stacked in his favor. Reports indicated he fought as a gladiator more than 735 times, every victory a costly display of wealth. Christians, those who refused to conform to the empire's demands, were also victims of these spectacles, thrown to lions, burned alive, or crucified in a series of shows designed to obliterate any challenge to Rome's supremacy. Conclusion: the legacy of a lost empire. We've traversed through this grim legacy of Roman society, witnessing countless spectacles and the polarizing casualty rates, all to answer the question: when does entertainment cross into depths of immorality? The moral decay fostered by the amphitheater reached dangerous heights, culminating in widespread societal repercussions. By the late empire, Rome diverted more resources to entertainments than to its military, neglecting public infrastructure, stability, and moral integrity. Many citizens began to crave spectacles over discipline. In turn, the threats of barbarism drew closer as a once proud empire crumbled from within. History suggests a haunting answer to our ruminations. A society that cultivates its people to find pleasure in suffering cannot hope to endure. As the once magnificent gatherings faded, the Colosseum stood in ruins, its echoes of horror dulling into silence. Today, as you walk the remnants of this structure, you might hear whispers of its past, a reminder of a spectacle that was built upon the foundations of human suffering. The Colosseum's true legacy isn't merely about bloodshed. It encapsulates control, subjugation, and the profound lessons learned about humanity itself. If this exploration has shaken you, but you feel compelled to learn more, hit like now. Because diving into the depths of unfiltered history reveals the secrets people often wish to leave buried. Subscribe for more tales that unveil the truths other accounts hide.